The Rebel Capitalist Show. We were just talking before we started recording about what's going on with Puerto Rico and Act 2022, but more specifically, what's going on with their lockdown process. And it just sounds completely insane. I've got to go there next week to renew my license. So you're telling me all the horror stories, but you've got a very interesting concept of maybe they're trying to go overboard to maybe get some more money coming in if Biden gets in office. Can you outline that for the viewers and listeners? I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, well, I think that there's no way the Puerto Ricans would be this reckless and irresponsible unless they really had an ulterior motive. And first of all, you have to realize that $600 a week in supplemental unemployment benefits, right, that went a lot further in Puerto Rico, because imagine, something like 2/3 of the Americans were earning less when they had a job than they were getting paid to be unemployed. Well, the numbers are even greater in Puerto Rico. I'd say maybe 90% of the workers earned more on unemployment than going back to their job. So they certainly have an incentive to keep people unemployed because they'll make a lot more money. Of course, they won't be providing goods and services, so it's not good for the local economy to have everybody just sitting at home collecting welfare checks. But also, I think that maybe the Puerto Rican government deliberately wants to make their fiscal situation as bad as possible, blame it all on COVID-19, and then use that as an excuse to get a much bigger federal bailout once Biden is in office, and they can collect a little bit of their political payback, because, of course, the Puerto Ricans, they back the Democrats, even though they can't vote in the presidential election. There's a lot of Puerto Ricans that do vote that live in Florida and other states. And I think if they do get a clean sweep in Congress, that should greenlight a pretty big bailout for Puerto Rico. And so I think that's probably their end game.
Yeah, and you were telling me about some of the restrictions, how draconian they are. And I haven't been back to the U.S. other than maybe just a couple weeks in Fort Lauderdale when I was coming to St. Bart's from Medellin. I think you've maybe been up in Connecticut. How are the regulations as far as lockdown in Puerto Rico compared to what you're seeing in the States?
Well, it's much, much worse in Puerto Rico. I mean, you have curfews in Puerto Rico. You can't go out. I mean, they keep changing it. Right now, I think it's 10 to 5 a.m. But they've had it as early as 7 o'clock when I was there at one point. Sundays are mandatory closures. Nothing is open on Sundays, really. And you can't even have friends over. They've banned social gatherings on Sundays. So, I mean, forget about going to church, but you can't even invite your buddies over on Sunday. You pretty much have to stay at home with your family. The beaches, they're allowing you to go on the beach for athletic activities, but you can't sunbathe. You can't go to the beach and spread out a towel and lie on it. You can't have an umbrella or a picnic basket. So all that's done. All the pools are closed, so you don't have any pools. The restaurants are open, but not on Sundays, only for takeout. And they're at 25% capacity, only outdoor seating, and no alcohol. So, I mean, it doesn't even make a sense. I mean, if they're going to let people go to a restaurant, why can't they order a drink? I mean, what's the big deal? But it seems like they're deliberately trying to make sure that restaurants can't make any money. And of course, when you come to Puerto Rico, you need to prove that you've had a swab COVID test within 3 days of your visit. Right. Otherwise, you have to quarantine yourself for 2 weeks, or the length of your stay. So to the extent that anybody was thinking about coming to Puerto Rico, they're going to rethink that once they realize the restrictions that they're going to be subjected to.
I mean, I think what most people are maybe is going through their mind right now is, wow, I wonder if Peter is second guessing his decision to move to Puerto Rico for Act 2022. And I know I'm kind of right there with you with the Act 2022. What are you thinking? Just on a personal level?
No. I mean, I'm not second guessing at all. And, they actually have mandatory masks. You have to wear a mask anywhere in public, or you get a $100 fine for that. But look, COVID's not going to last forever. But high taxes in the U.S. probably will. So I'm fine with my decision to move in Puerto Rico. And there are a lot of things I like about Puerto Rico. It's not just about the fact that the taxes are much lower. If it was only about low taxes, then I wouldn't live there. But I really do enjoy it. You haven't spent nearly as much time there as I have. So, it's a nice place to live. It's a great place for the kids to grow up.
Yeah.
So I enjoy the lifestyle, but yeah, I mean, the government is way overboard when it comes to COVID. I mean, that's for sure. But I mean, that's kind of what you expect in Puerto Rico. I mean, that's why the island is in so much trouble. The government has done so much to hurt the economy. What the Washington hasn't done with the minimum wage and the Jones Act and stuff like this. San Juan has done a lot to sabotage their own economy. Really, the only good thing they've done, as far as I know, is the tax incentives that brought me there and you there and a lot of other entrepreneurs that are really making a positive difference in Puerto Rico right now by providing a lot of capital, a lot of economic activity, a lot of employment opportunities. So that's really the only thing positive that the island has going. And that is actually going to increase significantly
Right.
next year, because taxes in the United States are going to go way up in 2021. I mean, I think even if Trump gets reelected, I think they're going to end up raising taxes. But if Trump loses, which is the most likely scenario at this point, there will be significant increases in taxes at the upper end, right? The marginal rate and on corporations, on individuals, very sharp increases on capital gains. So I think you're going to see just a huge inflow. I think 2021, we could have more people coming to Puerto Rico in that year than in all the years prior since 2012, when they first enacted these incentives. I think we'll get more people in 2021 than in all the years from 2012 through 2020 combined.